Friends, seekers of the light, listen closely. Many wander the parched deserts of not enough, searching for a spring that never runs dry. You seek the secret of the abundance that arrives like a sudden rain. But tell me, can the lotus bloom if the pond is filled with stones? The ritual of the secret monk is not a dance of the hands, nor a shouting of words into the wind. It is the ritual of the empty cup. Observe the first. When it is clenched tight to hold a single silver coin, it is closed to the entire world. It can receive nothing more. To find instant abundance, one must first practice the art of the open palm. Release the fear of less, and you create the space for all. The truth of fate is not written in the stars, but in the rhythm of your own spirit. To change your destiny today, you must perform the inward rite. Stillness. In the noise of wanting, you hear nothing. In the silence of being, you hear the heartbeat of the earth. Recognition. Abundance is not a destination, it is a lens. Look not at the lack in your bowl, but at the miracle of the hand that holds it. Flow. Water that stays still becomes stagnant. Wealth that stays trapped becomes a burden. Let your intentions flow like a river, and the ocean will naturally rush to meet you. You ask, when will it arrive? I tell you, it has already arrived. The moment you stop chasing the shadow of gold and become the light that casts it, the world bows at your feet. True wealth is not a pile of yellow metal, it is the realization that you are the architect of the infinite. Walk from this place not as a beggar of fate, but as a master of the moment. The secret is simple. Be the abundance you seek, and the universe will have no choice but to reflect it back to you. Be at peace. The harvest is ready. True abundance cannot enter a mind that is already full of stress, greed, or noise. Just as a cup must be empty to receive tea, your mind must be cleared of old, limiting beliefs to make room for new wealth and opportunities. To understand the true essence of the ritual of the empty cup, one must first contemplate the nature of a vessel. A bowl crafted from the finest clay or a chalice forged from the purest gold is utterly useless if it is already filled to the brim with stagnant, muddy water. It cannot hold the wine of wisdom, nor can it catch the fresh rain of prosperity. This is the primary metaphor for the human mind in its search for abundance. Most seekers approach the universe with a mind so cluttered by old anxieties, past failures, and rigid expectations that there is simply no physical or spiritual room for a miracle to take place. We often believe that to gain wealth we must add more information, more struggle, more frantic energy, but the secret of the monk lies in the art of subtraction. To become an empty cup is to perform the most difficult ritual of all, the act of unlearning. The clutter that fills our internal cup is usually composed of the noise of not enough. This noise is a constant vibrating frequency of lack that tells us we are incomplete without a certain balance in our bank account or a certain status in society. When the mind is preoccupied with this noise, it becomes deaf to the subtle whispers of opportunity that are constantly passing by. It is as if you are trying to hear a flute player in the middle of a thunderstorm. The ritual of emptying the cup is the process of silencing that storm. It requires sitting in the stillness of the present moment and consciously pouring out the stale water of how things used to be and how I fear they might become. Only in that void, that silent space of nothingness, can the all begin to flow in. In a practical sense, being an empty cup means approaching the world with what is often called a beginner's mind. When we think we know everything about how money is made or how success is achieved, we become rigid. We follow the same tired paths and wonder why the destination never changes. The monk, however, knows that the universe is infinitely creative and can deliver abundance through doors we haven't even noticed yet. By emptying the cup of our preconceived notions, we become receptive. We stop telling the universe how to bless us and simply become available to be blessed. This state of availability is a powerful magnet. It is a shift from the energy of chasing, which is frantic and repels, to the energy of attracting, which is calm and invites. Furthermore, this emptiness is not a state of poverty or lack, it is a state of profound readiness. It is the silence between two musical notes that gives the melody its beauty. When you empty your cup of the desperate need for a result, you paradoxically become the most powerful version of yourself. You are no longer acting out of fear, but out of a clear, crystalline intent. This ritual is an internal cleansing that says to the divine or the cosmic laws, I am ready. I am no longer holding on to the crumbs of the past, so I am now capable of holding the feast of the present. Ultimately, the ritual of the empty cup is a transformation of identity. You cease to be the person who is trying to get rich and become the space where richness manifests. It is the realization that you cannot grasp the ocean if your hands are full of pebbles. By dropping the weights, the small worries, the petty grudges, and the heavy doubts, your hands become free to embrace the infinite. This is the fate-changing truth. Abundance is not a prize to be won at the end of a long race, but a natural substance that fills any space that is truly open to receive it. When the cup is empty, the universe, which abhors a vacuum, has no choice but to fill it with the golden nectar of its infinite supply. When you clench your fist out of fear of losing money, you are closed off from receiving anything new. By practicing the open palm, letting go of the fear of not having enough, you signal to the universe that you are ready to receive its infinite flow. To understand the law of the open palm, one must first contemplate the physical and spiritual mechanics of a clenched fist. When a human being is gripped by the fear of poverty or the desperate need to control their circumstances, their natural instinct is to tighten. We clench our muscles, we narrow our vision, and most significantly, we close our hands into a tight defensive knot. This gesture is the universal symbol of holding on. It is an attempt to protect the little we have, to shield ourselves from the perceived scarcity of the world, and to grasp at the edges of security. Yet, in the silent wisdom of the ancient monk, this very act of clutching is the invisible barrier that prevents the arrival of true wealth. A fist that is closed to protect a single copper coin is a hand that is structurally incapable of receiving a mountain of gold. This is the great paradox of abundance. The more tightly you hold onto the shore, the less the vast ocean can carry you. The law of the open palm is a profound shift in how we interact with the energy of the universe. It suggests that abundance is not a static object to be captured and hidden away, but a living, breathing flow, much like the air we breathe. If you were to take a deep breath and hold it in your lungs with all your might, refusing to let it go out of fear that there wouldn't be another breath waiting for you, you would soon find yourself suffocating. Life is sustained by the rhythmic cycle of inhalation and exhalation. Wealth operates on the same principle. By opening the palm, you are participating in the exhale of the universe. You are signaling a deep, foundational trust that the source of supply is infinite and that you do not need to hoard the current drop to ensure the next wave arrives. This openness is not an act of carelessness or a lack of value for what you have, rather, it is an act of supreme confidence. It is the posture of a master who knows that they are a conduit for prosperity, not a container for it. When the palm is open, the psychology of the seeker changes from one of defense to one of reception. A closed fist creates a ceiling for your potential. It says to the cosmos, I only have room for what I can currently grasp. In contrast, an open palm is an invitation to the infinite. It represents a state of being where you are relaxed, observant, and ready. From a metaphorical perspective, if the universe were to rain down blessings this very second, they would simply bounce off the knuckles of a clenched hand and fall into the dirt. Only the open palm provides a landing place, a cradle, and a vessel for the miracle to settle. This physical relaxation actually mirrors a neurological shift when we stop clutching at our problems. Our brains move out of the fight or flight response and into a creative state, where we can actually see the opportunities and rituals that lead to instant wealth. Furthermore, the law of the open palm addresses the hidden vibration of neediness. Neediness is a repulsive force. It carries the energy of lack, loudly proclaiming to the world that you are empty and desperate. This vibration acts as a wall that pushes away the very things you desire. When you practice the ritual of opening your hand literally and figuratively, you drop the energy of the beggar and adopt the energy of the benefactor. You begin to move through the world with the grace of someone who already possesses everything they need. This shift in identity is the forbidden secret that many overlook. They spend their lives trying to grab wealth, not realizing that wealth is drawn to those who have the courage to let go of the struggle. By releasing the white-knuckled grip on your current limitations, you create a vacuum that the laws of nature are compelled to fill. Ultimately, to live with an open palm is to live without the friction of resistance. It is to understand that the fate-changing truth is found in the fluid space between giving and receiving. You become a gateway. As you allow ideas, gratitude, and resources to pass through you without the friction of greed or the weight of fear, you create a space for growth, connection, and transformation. The volume of what passes through you naturally increases. The monk does not seek to own the river. The monk simply sits with open hands in the middle of the stream and watches as the water provides everything necessary for the journey. This is the moment of instant abundance. When you realize that by refusing to clench your fingers around the small and the temporary, you have finally made yourself large enough to hold the vast and the eternal. The hand is finally free, and because it is free, it is finally full. Wealth is not something you reach in the future, it is a way of seeing the world right now. If you focus on what you lack, you will always feel poor. If you change your lens to recognize the miracles already around you, you align yourself with the frequency of prosperity. To truly grasp the concept of abundance as a lens rather than a destination, one must first confront the common human illusion that wealth is a distant mountain we are constantly trekking toward. Most people live their lives in a state of when then thinking, believing that when they reach a certain bank balance, then they will be abundant, or when they acquire a specific possession, then they will feel secure. This perspective treats prosperity as a finish line, a fixed point in the future that remains perpetually out of reach because the horizon moves as quickly as we run toward it. The secret of the monk, however, flips this entire journey on its head by suggesting that abundance is not a place you arrive at. but the very pair of glasses through which you view the world at this exact moment. If you look through a lens of scarcity, even a palace will feel like a prison of not enough. But if you look through the lens of abundance, the world reveals itself as a treasure house that has been open all along. The metaphor of the lens is crucial because a lens does not change the reality of what is in front of you, it changes how much of that reality you are capable of perceiving. Imagine standing in a lush, vibrant forest while wearing dark, blurred goggles. You would see only shadows and obstacles, stumbling over roots and fearing the darkness, completely unaware of the fruit hanging from the branches or the gold glimmering in the stream. The forest hasn't changed, but your experience of it is one of poverty and danger. The ritual of the monk is the act of cleaning those goggles. It is a shift in internal frequency that allows you to see the fate-changing truth that is already present. Abundance is a fundamental law of nature. The trees do not count their leaves, and the sun does not ration its light, and when you align your perception with this natural extravagance, you stop being a beggar of fate and start being a witness to the miracle. By treating abundance as a lens, you eliminate the gap between your current state and your desired state. This gap is where most people lose their power. It is the space where anxiety, doubt, and the feeling of lack reside. When you decide that abundance is a destination, you are essentially telling your subconscious mind that you do not have it now. This creates a psychological vibration of wanting, and as long as you are in a state of wanting, you are by definition not in a state of having. The lens of the monk allows you to find the seeds of gold in your current circumstances. It encourages you to look at the air in your lungs, the sun on your skin, and the ideas in your mind as high-value currency. This is not mere positive thinking or a hollow exercise in gratitude. It is a tactical redirection of your focus. Where your focus goes, your energy flows, and when you focus on the inherent richness of the present, you begin to notice opportunities, connections, and miracles that were previously invisible to your scarce and cloudy vision. Furthermore, this perspective changes the way you take action in the world. A person who is desperately trying to reach the destination of wealth often acts out of a sense of frantic pressure. They make decisions based on fear, they bypass their ethics out of perceived necessity, and they radiate a desperate energy that often repels the very success they seek. However, the person who views the world through the lens of abundance moves with a quiet, magnetic confidence. They work not to become rich, but because they recognize the richness of their own potential and wish to express it. They treat every interaction as an opportunity to share value rather than extract it. Because they already feel full through their chosen lens, they do not give off the scent of hunger that makes others wary. This is how the ritual produces instant results. The moment you change the lens, your behavior changes, and the world's response to you changes in kind. Ultimately, the realization that abundance is a lens means that you have the power to arrive today, this very second. You do not need a bank's permission or a boss's promotion to inhabit a state of prosperity. The secret monk ritual is simply the courage to stop waiting for external validation and to start perceiving the infinite supply of the universe as your current reality. When you look at your life and see a canvas of infinite possibilities rather than a list of missing items, you have mastered the secret. You understand that the destination was a ghost, and the lens is the only thing that was ever real. By choosing to see through the eyes of abundance, you find that the treasure you were hunting for was actually the ground you were standing on the entire time. The miracle is not that the gold appeared, but that you finally opened your eyes wide enough to see it shining. Money and energy are like water, they must move to stay fresh. The speech teaches that wealth should not be trapped or hoarded out of fear. When you allow your intentions and resources to flow by being generous or taking action, the ocean of the universe naturally rushes back to fill you. Gemini said to understand the concept of flow over stagnation. One must look at the natural world and observe how life sustains itself through constant, unhindered movement. Consider a mountain stream. The water is clear, life-giving and sparkling because it is always in motion, dancing over rocks and winding through valleys. It does not try to hold on to itself or stay in one place out of fear that it will run dry at the source. It trusts the cycle of the rain and the melting snow, and because it flows, it remains fresh. In contrast, a pond that has no outlet soon becomes stagnant. The water turns green and thick, the air around it becomes heavy, and instead of supporting life, it becomes a place of decay. This is the perfect physical manifestation of how wealth and energy behave in the human experience. Most people treat their resources like the stagnant pond, building high walls of fear around what they have, clutching their possessions so tightly that the energy of prosperity can no longer breathe. The secret monk's ritual for instant abundance is the act of breaking those walls and becoming a river. This principle suggests that wealth is not a solid object to be hoarded, but a current of energy that must move to remain vital. When a person is gripped by the stagnation mindset, they act from a place of deep-seated insecurity. They believe that if they let go of a single dollar, or if they share a brilliant idea, or if they give their time freely, they are somehow becoming less. This belief creates a blockage in their internal plumbing, so to speak. By trying to stop the outflow, they inadvertently stop the inflow. The universe operates on a system of exchange. For a new breath to enter the lungs, the old breath must be released. If you refuse to exhale, you cannot inhale. Stagnation is the spiritual equivalent of holding your breath until you turn blue. The miracle of abundance occurs the very moment you decide to trust the flow again, realizing that the source of your supply is not the little pool you have collected, but the infinite sky that feeds the mountains. Practicing flow over stagnation requires a radical shift in how we handle our intentions and our resources. It does not mean being reckless or wasteful, but it does mean being fluid. A fluid person understands that money is called currency for a reason. It is derived from the word currens, meaning to run or to flow. To keep your wealth healthy, you must keep it moving. This can be as simple as shifting your internal attitude during a transaction. Instead of paying a bill with a sense of resentment or loss, the monk's approach is to pay it with a sense of blessing the flow, recognizing that the money is going out to support someone else's livelihood and will eventually find its way back in another form. This simple change in frequency transforms an act of losing into an act of circulating. When you circulate energy with a spirit of confidence, you align yourself with the natural laws of growth. You move from the cramped, airless room of scarcity into the vast open field of prosperity. Furthermore, stagnation often shows up as procrastination or perfectionism. We hold on to our ideas, waiting for the perfect moment to launch, or we wait for more before we feel we can start living. This is just another way of damming up the river. The monk teaches that the time for flow is always now. By taking a small action, by giving a small gift, or by moving toward a goal today, you are pulling the plug on stagnation. You are telling the universe that you are a vessel that is open at both ends. This openness is what creates the vacuum that draws in new abundance. It is a scientific and spiritual certainty that where a vacuum is created, nature will rush to fill it. If you clear out the old, stagnant energy of waiting and hoarding, the fresh, sparkling energy of becoming has no choice but to rush in and take its place. Ultimately, the ritual of flow is an exercise in profound faith. It is the realization that you are not a separate, lonely island trying to survive, but a part of a massive, interconnected ecosystem. When you allow yourself to flow, you become a partner with the divine. You stop worrying about the size of your pool and start focusing on the quality of your current. You find that the more you allow to pass through you, whether it is kindness, creativity, or capital, the more the universe entrusts you with. The wealth code is hidden in this very movement. Stagnation is the path of the ego, which is always afraid of vanishing, but flow is the path of the spirit, which knows it is eternal. Today the miracle arrives not because you finally got something, but because you finally let go enough to let the river of life carry you to the ocean of all things. Instead of chasing the shadow, material gold, you must become the light, the person who creates value. When you shift your internal state to one of mastery and peace, the external world has no choice but to reflect that richness back to you instantly. To understand the transformation from being a chaser of shadows to becoming the light that casts them, one must first recognize the fundamental nature of how human beings typically pursue their desires. Most people spend their entire lives in a state of pursuit, running after the shadows of gold, status, and external validation. They believe that if they can just run fast enough or work hard enough, they will eventually catch the shadow and hold it in their hands. However, the nature of a shadow is that it is always one step ahead. It has no substance of its own, and it is entirely dependent on the source of light. This is the great exhaustion of the modern world, a billion souls chasing the flickering shapes of wealth without ever turning around to see the sun. The forbidden monk's secret lies in this one pivotal movement, the moment you stop chasing the shadow and realize that you are the light itself. When you change your internal state from one of seeking to one of being, the shadow no longer dictates the pace. It simply follows you wherever you go. This shift is a total revolution of identity. Usually we define ourselves by what we lack: the person who needs a promotion, the person who is trying to save money, or the person who hopes for a miracle. These identities are all rooted in the vibration of the shadow. They are hollow and dependent on external conditions to feel real. To become the light means to anchor your identity in your inherent worth and creative power. It is the realization that the wealth vault is not a physical safe located in a bank, but a spiritual state located within your own consciousness. When you embody the energy of a master, someone who is already calm, already confident, and already grateful, you are no longer a beggar at the gates of destiny. You are the architect. This internal radiance is what creates the instant abundance promised in the ritual. It is not that the world suddenly changes its rules, but that you have stopped fighting the world and started leading it. Becoming the light means understanding that the external world is nothing more than a giant mirror, reflecting back to you the image you hold of yourself. If you stand before a mirror and feel frustrated that the reflection isn't smiling, you do not reach out and try to force the reflection's lips to move. You know that the only way to see a smile in the glass is to smile first. In the same way, if you want to see wealth in your life, you must first project the frequency of wealth from within. This is not a matter of faking it, but a matter of deep internal knowing. The monk does not wait for the gold to appear before feeling prosperous. The monk feels the prosperity of the universe in every breath, and because of that unshakable feeling, the gold is naturally drawn to them. You are shifting from a reactive life where you only feel good if the day goes well to a proactive life, where the day goes well because you have decided to feel good. Furthermore, being the light changes the way you interact with other people and opportunities. A person who is chasing shadows is often perceived as desperate or hungry, and as we have discussed, hunger repels. People can sense when you are trying to get something from them, but a person who is the light is seen as a source. They are attractive in the most literal sense of the word. They provide value, they radiate peace, and they offer a sense of certainty that others are drawn to. Because you are no longer trying to catch your wealth, you are free to create it. You act from a place of inspiration rather than desperation. This is how the wealth code is unlocked. When you stop needing the miracle to happen today, you finally become the kind of person to whom miracles happen every day. You are no longer under the thumb of fate because you have realized that you and fate are moving in the same rhythm. Ultimately, the ritual of becoming the light is about the end of the struggle. It is the understanding that you are not a separate tiny fragment of the universe trying to survive against the odds. You are the universe expressing itself through a human form. Just as the sun does not worry about whether it has enough light to shine tomorrow, you do not need to worry about whether there is enough abundance for you. The supply is infinite, and you are the channel through which it flows. By dropping the identity of the seeker and stepping into the identity of the source, you find that the today you were waiting for has finally arrived. You walk with the quiet power of a monarch who knows their kingdom is secure. The shadows of poverty and doubt vanish because light cannot coexist with darkness. You are the abundance you seek, and in that realization, the miracle is complete.